Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this fall Sunday morning?
Yeah, really, it does feel like fall. All this week feels like it's been colder than it should be. It's frustrating, but you know what? It's still better than snow, so I'll take it. Doing all right, James. Doing well. How are you today, sir?
Doing good, man. Looking forward to this 3-day weekend continuing. You get Monday off too?
Oh yeah, I got Monday
Yeah,
off.
isn't that nice? That's one of the benefits of the laundry industry is we get some extra days off here and there. So
Listen, it's a great. We get some extra days off. I just got a fairly decent pay raise at work, so I'm just ready, excited.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you about that after the show. Good times to be alive. Be going to. I'm gonna go to church after this. I don't have to serve today, so it's not a 5 o'clock show today, so that's fun. But no, I'm excited. We're ready to go, James. It's Steelers football time. I mean, training camp is a little bit away. We got news about certain rookies. We got news about other players potentially signing contracts, whatever. We'll get into all of it.
Before we go too far, I really want to just say thank you to all the listeners out there. There's been a ton of international listeners the last few months. Real big influx in countries that I'm just not even all that familiar with, to be honest with you. So appreciate every single one of you. If you're audio only on the listenership, we're also on YouTube. We're only 3 subscribers away from 100, so we'd love to see some of you click that subscribe button, help us out, maybe tell a friend, and get us into the triple digits on YouTube.
Woot woot. We would love that. We would love that. But before we go even further, James, real quick, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsor. Support for Steelers by the Lake podcast is provided in part by the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, a family-friendly, smoke-free establishment located at 100 Meadville Street in Edinburgh. They offer lunch, dinner, and catering services with private party room accommodations available for up to 75 people. Can confirm. I've been there. I've done it. Details can be found at edinburghhotelbar.com or at 814-734-5103. Go check them out. I'm there often for Steelers games and trivia nights on Wednesdays and all kinds of stuff. They have a pasta bar one night a week. I think it's Tuesdays. And I've never been, but I want to. And I just always forget about it until people are like, we were there yesterday. I was like, well, that was stupid. Tell me.
A reminder, Cody. You can't miss it. A pasta bar, you can't miss that.
Oh, no. All the carbs in the world, baby. But let's hop into this, James. We got some Steelers news to talk about. Steelers did cut guard Leviticus Smith. Interesting.
Or Lecitus, but
yeah, Lecitus. I did say Leviticus. I'm in the church mindset right now.
You are already at church. It seems like take me to church.
This guy was. I mean, he was only with the team for what?
This offseason. That's
not. But that's my point. Is like it's been like a month or maybe 2 max.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked like a depth piece when they signed him, and in releasing him, it looks like they signed a different depth piece. Really. They turned right around and signed guard Nick Broker, who was a 2023 7th-round draft pick by the Buffalo Bills, and then spent his entire 2023 and 2024 on the Houston Texans roster. They released him this offseason just like a few days ago. Pittsburgh immediately snatched him up. So, in my opinion, I think this means they had a greater evaluation on him than they did on Lecitus Smith. Both of them are interior guys, center/guard. Rumor on Broker is that he's a real mauler in the run game, like real physical dude.
We need it.
When they say that typically means that he's not as good in pass blocking. So that's something you worry about, but that's a good sign for these young running backs in the preseason to have a guard that should be able to move some backup defensive linemen in and create some holes and make those guys look good.
Absolutely. Moving on, we're going to talk about Derrick Harmon, the number 21 overall draft pick this year for Pittsburgh. Did sign his rookie deal. James, that deal is a 4-year, $17.9 million deal with approximately a $9.7 million signing bonus. So good for him. Excited to get him into training camp and everything else. I mean, he hasn't missed anything up to this point. He wasn't holding out. He wasn't doing anything, but just excited for that to kind of disappear. Every year there's always people are fearful of a holdout or a guy not participating because he's not signed, this and that. So very glad and very happy that he's there. Obviously, he's a first-round pick. He has a fifth-year option included in that Pittsburgh can pick up or not pick up in approximately 3 years. They'd have to do that. So excited that he's finally that's the last guy we needed signed, right? From the rookies?
Yeah, that's it. All the other guys were already signed, so the entire rookie class is buttoned up. We're starting to get a better picture of what the salary cap is for our Pittsburgh Steelers in this upcoming season, and they're way under it right now, so they still need to spend some cap. But I'm excited about this. I mean, you never want to be in a situation like the Cincinnati Bengals are, with their first and second round picks both not signing. I don't know if they've signed yet, but the last time we talked, they not only had not signed, but opted to not sign the waiver and go to rookie minicamp, which is a very rare and odd move. So anytime it's not signed yet, you have that option for guys to just not show up to stuff. So you want to get that out of the way as early as you can. I'm excited about there being a guy that I think there is a real possibility of exploring that fifth-year option, It just didn't happen for a while here in Pittsburgh where first-round picks weren't working out, or just moving on after, or even getting traded before their rookie deal is done in Kenny Pickett's instance. So it starts over with Broderick Jones being the first possibility of a fifth-year extension. I think he's going to have to play a little better than he did his first 2 years for that. Then you get Troy Fautanu after that, then Derrick Harmon. We could be in a situation where the next generation of cornerstone big men for the team are all extended 3 years in a row and put on fifth-year extensions. So I'm excited about that possibility and getting those cornerstones back in place. You know what I mean? I was listening to a show yesterday, and they were talking about, how much different would things look if Stephon Tuitt didn't have that personal tragedy. He'd still be playing. He was like 3 years younger than Cam Hayward, so you'd still have him and Cam Hayward and then Derrick Harmon in addition. My goodness.
I don't think we'd be quite in the situation we are to need Derrick Harmon. You know what I mean? There's no telling if we would have drafted him or not. But either way, they would have had somebody else in the middle there. So, I mean, I'm right there with you. Yeah, you get Tuitt on the other side.
And I think, honestly, it might have been just as important because you kind of look at Cam Hayward's contract. You say he's got this upcoming season left on it and no additional years beyond that. What if he retires? You'd rather have that guy a year early and not only have one draft class to address it. I'd rather have the guy on the roster now, have him be around Cam Hayward, and if he were still there, Stephon Tuitt, to learn from both of these guys, to come into situations and not have everything be on you stopping the run. You've got to get that quarterback down. One of the low-key things about Derrick Harmon that I'm so excited about is he led all of college football defensive linemen and quarterback pressures last year. He had 55 quarterback pressures from a defensive line position. We're not talking about edge rushers, from an interior defensive line guy. Led the entire college football, draft eligible or not. That's a lot, man. 55 QB pressures. That's something to be had, man. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, how different does it look if Stephon Tuitt's still going? Ryan Shazier, if his injury didn't happen, we talk about that often. He'd still be playing had that not happened.
We probably don't draft Devin Bush.
You wouldn't have drafted Devin Bush. You would have gone a different direction. And that's a whole nother story where you could look at that draft class and say, even you don't have to trade up then. I think they were at 20 and traded up to 10 that year to get Devin Bush. So then you could look at guys that got drafted like 20 to 30 and say what one of them might have fit the bill on what you could have used in other positions. And maybe you could have hit on a home run on somebody else rather than forcing that linebacker. There's a lot of what ifs as time goes on.
We moved up from 20, you said?
I believe from 20 to 10 that year.
So I'm just going to go through 20 to 32 just to name a few, because I'm not going to go through this.
Denver Broncos should have been 20.
Denver was 20.
Okay, so that was our pick then.
Tight end Noah Fant, safety Darnell Savage Jr., tackle Andre Dillard, tackle Titus Howard, running back Josh Jacobs,
Oh man.
wide receiver Marquise Brown, defensive end Montez Sweat, safety Jonathan Abram, defensive tackle Jerry Tillery, defensive end LJ Collier, cornerback DeAndre Baker, tackle Caleb McGarry, wide receiver N'Keal Harry, and then other guys that fell to the second and further. You got Deebo Samuel, wide receiver. You got freaking, I mean, there's going to be some big names in here, I'm sure. AJ Brown, wide receiver to Tennessee. I'm trying to think of positions we also needed back then.
Well, if you look at it too, just saying Josh Jacobs, they could have gone the Josh Jacobs route, and then that would have avoided picking Najee Harris.
Yep.
And then that would have pushed Creed Humphrey in the first round the year that Najee Harris was drafted. You know, so it's like if you're addressing these things a year before you need them instead of, oh crap, now we need them, we got nobody, you're in a much better situation, which is how the better teams draft. You know, you can't be as reactive. And that's one of the things I've liked about the last couple of years is it seems that Pittsburgh's addressing things either right as they need it or a year before they need it. That Mason McCormick pick ended up saving their butt. You know, when that happened, I thought, man, you already took 2 offensive linemen in this draft. What in the world do you need to take a guard in the 4th round for? Well, he ended up starting like 13 or 14 games. Maybe it was 15, and he played pretty good. And now he's going to be a starter this upcoming season. A pick that was supposed to be just a depth and future starter ends up an immediate starter, and it's all because you took value and talent over need. So, yeah, future need sometimes is just as important as that today need.
Yep, especially with the injuries and everything that could happen.
Yeah.
No, maybe this is an idea for a what if show. Maybe we have a show where we talk about what if this guy doesn't happen, or what if this play doesn't happen, what if this injury doesn't happen.
Chain reaction show.
Yeah, interesting.
I like it.
That's a thought process. Real quick, small hint at future shows, since we're talking about shows. James and I are going to be discussing the way too early 53-man roster predictions. James will share his first 53-man roster prediction next week, and I will share mine the following week. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure to check that out next week. We're going to finish up this show. We got 3 more things to talk about, kind of. Aaron Rodgers takes a hint, James, or makes a hint at potentially playing for the Steelers. Someone asked him if he'd ever played for Chicago. I don't even know where he was. He was at some interview kind of thing, and someone was like, would you ever consider yourself or consider playing for Chicago? And he basically said, I love Chicago. They hate me because he always, wins there. But he also said, I might go play for a team that will play in Chicago this year, which plays in Chicago this year.
Yeah.
So he's just playing the long game. He also came out and said, I don't know, James, if you saw this, he said he's been dealing with friends of his that have cancer, and that's why he's been, not there. And that's admirable, understandable. I don't know why you don't just say that from the start. I don't know. It's just annoying to me. I feel like he's a little bit of a diva with certain things. Like at the beginning, say, hey, I'd be with the team right now, or I'd be considering it more, but I'm dealing with some close friends that are in health. Like, I don't know. It's just weird how he takes his time to let people know things. It's just weird. Now he has no obligation.
No,
it just feels some type of way.
I hear you on it. It makes you. I don't ever want to question when somebody says they've got a friend or a relative that has an illness, right?
Yeah.
Especially something as serious as cancer. But it's odd that he took the time off for that, but still has all the time to do all these shows and go to concerts and do all these public appearances. It doesn't seem that any of that is cutting into his time, spending time with his friend with cancer, but you couldn't sign with a team to go to like a 2-day mini camp and then not have to be there outside of that.
Yep.
So it makes you wonder if this is 100% authentic. But I do believe, like what I've said all along, that he just has no interest in going to camp. And he doesn't want to sound like some kind of whiner or someone who thinks he's too good to go to camp. So he's just coming up with all these.
Even though that's 100% what it is.
Even though it's 100% what it is. He just doesn't want to sound like a whiner or somebody who thinks he's better than that and doesn't have to go through camp. But I kind of feel like that's what it is he just feels like he doesn't need camp. He doesn't want to go through it. And he's going to sign as late as he possibly can in the process. And one of the reasons that I'm sticking to my guns on this is because everything I've said on it so far is run true. I said there's no way they're signing him before the draft. They didn't. I said, I think it's still going to happen, but he doesn't want to go to any of these camps. He's already missed a number of them. Yep. And at this point, there's only a few left before we get into real actual training camp. And Pittsburgh's still $32 million under the salary cap.
And I hope we don't give him 32.
What's that?
I hope we don't give him this crazy big contract. If you don't want to be there with the team, if you don't want to be there with the freaking team, this is where you build the chemistry with your offensive line and with your tight ends and with your coaches. Like, I'm sorry, but I would rather Will Howard or Mason Rudolph fight for the starting position if he skips everything. If he skips everything, that's in my mindset, you just wasted so much time of building chemistry with your team to try and push for a playoff run that how can you expect to come in and just wing it and it goes well? I don't know. That just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Personally. Maybe yep.
But it gets to that point is you have to question, is this an issue of arrogance where he feels like he can just walk in there and be as good as he was when he was 28 years old and not have to practice for a second with any of these guys? There is chemistry. There is, where do these guys like the ball to be thrown to them? There is, even as much as he may not want to have to do it, coaching. He may need to actually be there to help coach up these young wide receivers like Calvin Austin III, and even the young kid out of Michigan here that we really haven't seen on the field, Roman Wilson. Yeah. Like, they might have some things that they have bad habits of doing that Aaron can throw him a pointer or two and say, hey, if you do this or this, it'll make it easier for me to throw this 8-yard out route or this slant pass or this hitch or whatever. But the less time you spend with these guys, the less opportunities you have to nail these things, to get these things worked out, to get on the same page, to get to the point where you can look at one of them, give them a head nod, and they know what you want them to do versus what they're supposed to do. That doesn't just happen without a little bit of playing together, a little bit of experience and chemistry. So that's my big thing, is he needs to get in there to get the chemistry started.
Obviously, if he comes in and if something happens in a game where he does a motion or a movement, like you said, or does an audible, and a receiver runs a wrong route and he throws an interception or throws an incomplete pass and he gets pissed off, I'm going to be livid. I'm going to light him up on this podcast because he's going to tear down the confidence of these young wide receivers, except for DK. DK's fine. DK will just punch him in the face.
I ain't going to talk no trash to DK.
But, like, I will be so mad if that's what happens. So we'll see. I don't know. He's got to get in the building. He's got to build some chemistry with these guys. That's where I'm at with it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you're not throwing him all this money, because obviously Pittsburgh being, like we just mentioned, $32 million under the cap, another great way to soak up some of that money, because you do have to spend it. In the NFL, you have to spend up to 90% of the cap over a 3-year rolling period. So if you're under that 90% for a couple of years, you got to be over it in the third year. This is the third year of a 3-year span. So they got to get up there and spend a lot of this money. Another great way to do it is get this TJ Watt extension done. So he's got 1 year left on his deal. At this stage, he's out-earned that deal and then some. So he's more than earned the right to get this extension. And I feel like you really need to get this done before Micah Parsons gets done, because what if somehow Micah gets more than what Myles Garrett got?
Yeah, Myles Garrett's average per year is $40 million.
Yeah, which was the only way he was going to stay in Cleveland, is by being overpaid. Because I want to say the next highest guy was like 35. I want to say it was like Nick Bosa or somebody.
Right Daniel Hunter and Max Crosby are both at 35. Bosa's at 34.
Yeah. So it was a huge jump percentage-wise. And the only reason for it is because of how badly he wanted out of town. It's Deshaun Watson all over again. He wanted nothing to do with being there. They said, well, what if we overpay and guarantee it all? He said, okay, yep, I'll stay then.
Yep. Browns are being Browns.
Yep, overpaying for guys that don't want to be there. Okay, but that puts Pittsburgh in a bad spot because TJ is going to want to make more than him. So don't let it happen again. Don't let Micah beat you to the negotiating table and get this doggone thing worked out. And you know what? If you're unable to sign Rodgers in a timely fashion and you're just like, screw it, move on. And I'm okay with that at a certain point. If you're not going to be able to get him in there to training camp, or if he just doesn't want to, forget about it, man. Just roll with Mason. Yeah, roll with Mason and let Will come along as Will comes along.
Because he's also not going to play in preseason.
Yeah, I mean, why would he play more than a series or two?
Yeah,
there's no real reason for it. But here's where I'm getting to with this: is if you don't give any of this money to Aaron Rodgers and you do need to spend it, why not front load the contract? Front load the TJ extension so a bunch of the salary cap hits the first year. It's still the same spread out over the years, but that gives you more salary cap relief in future years.
Yep.
You're always talking about don't overspend, right? Let's not pay a back of the roster guy more money than he earns. Well, why not just front load a contract and give yourself an easier route for later on down the road for these other guys that are going to be coming up that need extensions?
Yep. I'm right there with you on that. I would love to see that. That's a very potential actual outcome. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, I think there comes a point, if it hits training camp and he's not even signed a contract, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, you need him there for training camp. He's got to be there for training camp. You have to work on your chemistry with these guys. It's too important, man. You can't expect the regular season to go well if he's not there through training camp. It's just not enough time.
Nope, it's definitely not. So we'll see what happens. And you also have Alex Highsmith coming up in a few years that will need an extension. He's a 2028 NFL or undrafted free agent. So,
and you got
not undrafted free agent, unrestricted free agent. Excuse me.
Yeah, you got a rookie class coming up in a couple of years here with Joey Porter Jr., Broderick Jones, Keanu Benton, Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig. Are we going to sign all these guys? We might have the cap space to do it. Now, you're not going to give Nick Herbig the same amount of money you give an Alex Highsmith to back him up. Nope. So that's a whole nother thing that needs worked out in a couple of years here. But the key is you have to have guys that you drafted that get to the second contract because they're good enough, because they've developed, because you want them to be a starter for years to come. Yep. And I think the last few drafts we've hit on a lot of those guys. So now it's all about developing them and paying them when the time's right and not being worried about it.
Yep. So I'm very excited and very interested to see how we handle this offseason with the money and with things going on, because $32 million is a lot of money you got to put somewhere.
Yep.
So there's still a couple big name free agents, not big name, but there's still a couple big free agents out there too that they could potentially sign. I wonder if I can find that list real quick. And I'm curious to see if there's
been rumors with the wide receivers out there. I think there's a couple of those guys still floating around that could be had. But I don't know, to me, if these guys haven't signed with anyone at this point, it's because most of the NFL thinks they don't have much left in the tank.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, two big ones. Von Miller, we don't need another edge rusher.
Nope.
Preston Smith, don't need an edge rusher or him back. Zadarius Smith, Matt Judon, again, two more edge rushers. Brandon Sheriff, a right guard. Sam Hubbard, again, edge rusher. Jadeveon Clowney, edge rusher. Kendall Fuller, cornerback, but he's up there in age now. Justin Simmons, the safety. Rasul Douglas, corner. DeMarcus Walker, interior defensive line. Stephon Gilmore, cornerback. I'm trying to see if there's any other big names here. David Andrews, a center. Mike Hilton's unsigned right now.
That's what happens when you're a 190-pound nickel corner and you can't cover anymore.
Yep. But that looks to be about it. There's a few more, couple offensive linemen and stuff like that. But Will Hernandez, that's an interesting one, right guard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Scherf isn't a bad thought either. If you could get him in a reasonable contract, I wouldn't mind Brandon Scherf as a backup guard. I think that'd be a real nice option there.
yeah. Yeah. So there's some guys that Pittsburgh, depending on a couple other things, you could potentially sign. DJ Chark is also available. He was a big name coming out of college and then kind of didn't do anything really with the Jags. So there's some options with that 32 million for sure, but I'm definitely mostly on board with the, get TJ, front load the contract, move on.
Yeah, maybe even extend Calvin Austin. He's eligible for an extension, and
Yep.
it wouldn't cost a lot of money. I can't imagine he'd get more than 8 or 10 million a year on an extension. He hasn't really showed much yet.
Yeah. But we can't thank you guys enough for being here. That's going to wrap up today's show. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Steelers by the Lake. Don't forget the 5-star reviews and Apple Podcasts. Make James here very happy. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.